Howdy, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Sit Down. So, sorry, let me bring this over here real quick. The Sit Down, where the guests are people that I want to talk to and nobody that I don't. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Airwave, an innovative mouthpiece that will absolutely change the way you lift and how you recover. If you ever get tired, you feel like you're always gassed in your workouts, I would definitely recommend giving this a try. You can use the code ARALFS for 50% off of your first order. The next sponsor is FlaminFlagon.com, the South Jersey-based candle company that was started by a mother who loves gaming and hates bad smells, ranging from soy wax to wax melts and other luxury body products. Check them out if you're tired of smelling like Low Tide or 7-Eleven dumpsters. You can use the code VDAY24 for 25% off your entire order, excluding products that are on sale. Tonight, I have Don with me, as always.
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm definitely not smelling like any kind of 7-Eleven dumpsters over here.
That's what we pride ourselves on at the Sit Down, is not smelling like 7-Eleven dumpsters.
Yep.
Our guest tonight is an actor as well as a very funny comic. Let's give it up for my boy, Steve Cooper. Steve!
What's up, guys? How you doing? I don't the actor or comic. I'm a podcaster. Has been lucky enough to do comedy for years and acted. So, and you're drinking out of a jug of water, and it's great.
It's stickers on it, so I think it's kind of a bonus. Yeah, I try to get in a gallon a day, just so I can like be better than other people. That's why I do it, not because it's good for me.
Don't you hate that? Don't you hate that? Like it's like people always do it. It's like I have friends who are vegans, and you have to tell you right off the bat they're a vegan, or they always go, if we cut cable, they go, oh, we don't have cable, we cut it. And it's like water. Water, you have to drink your water. So anyway, I'm not going to be like that guy, that glitchy guest going, hey, what's up? It's your show, so I'll shut up now.
No. People always ask. They're like, "What's the deal with that water?" And then I just go like, "I drink it." Else to say after that? I'm just like, "Yeah, I drink that, and then I'm not so thirsty sometimes." Thank you. Yeah. So, Steve, I guess let's start at the very beginning. Where were you born?
I was born in Philadelphia, well, Camden. I grew up in Cherry Hill, in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I graduated Cherry Hill East High in 1982. Then I went down to Stockton State College, and I graduated in 1986. And I went to Stockton because I had to pay for 2 years of my college, and it was a state school. And I was on the waiting list at Trenton State, which thank God I didn't go to State. And then I graduated college, and then 2 years later, I was on the road as a stand-up comic.
What'd you get your degree in?
I have a Bachelor of Science, which you can't. It's funny if you actually look. It's over this side. It's a Bachelor of Science in Business Management.
That's quite a combination. That's all right. So you did comedy for 2 years. When would that have been? That would have
I was on the road from 88 to 94. I traveled the country. I was a road dog. I would do 250 shows a year at least, and I would play anywhere on the East Coast, Midwest. I would drive. I had a little Fiero. I drove. I mean,
Fiero. Whoa!
Back in the day, and I used to open for Dennis Leary. I opened for Dice Clay. I remember smoking pot with Jim Brewer in Florida as we went to a strip club, and it's the first time I heard the band The Cult, and it was great. It was what's an amazing band, and Jimmy was like, "You got to listen to this group, yeah, you know how he was," and me and Daryl Hammond used to do shows. I worked with so many acts back in the day, and it was great. It was a fun time. You know, it was the 80s. You go to Fort Lauderdale, you fly down to Fort Lauderdale, you pay $200 for a flight. You make $1,000 a week for a show every night, 2 shows on Saturday. You'd eat for free, you'd drink for free. All the strippers would come to the show. And if you when you walked into the club, the bouncer would be like, "Hey, I got an 8-ball for $60." And this was shit like you never even knew of. Like you did one line, you're like, "Oh my god!" You know, like I remember working with Mitchell Walters, who was one of his Outlaws, and I was in the bathroom, and I had a cold, and he's like, "Cooper, why aren't you sharing your blow?" And I'm like, "Dude, I'm not doing it." But that was my introduction to comedy. It was where comedy was every shithole bar.
Yeah,
you get paid $150 for doing 20 minutes and just dying. And you know, Andrew, you know, as a comic, sometimes you just die, but you would just sit there and look at your clock because I remember being in the middle of West Virginia doing a show to drunken sailors. Like, and just I had to do 45 minutes and like 30 minutes into the set, I said, screw this. I threw the mic down. I walked off stage. I got my $250 check and I was like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. So probably 3 months before. No. I guess this would have been like 6 months before my son was born. I would take all these gigs, and it'd be like at a moose lodge in rural Iowa, and like you would go up there for it'd be 30 minutes for $150, and you just go up there and die a slow death in front of like people that have never even thought about going to a comedy show. And they're just like, well, turn Lynyrd Skynyrd back on. Who are you? And sometimes it was awesome because you got to win those people over, but a majority of the time it just if you kind of surprise people a little with like comedy and they're not expecting comedy, it's a very different dynamic than working in like a club, working at, you know, Side Splitters or something like that. Oh man.
But it was so great. And I'm going to be honest with you. You know, when you went to these shitholes, it was so great because you know what? You were getting paid. I lived in LA for many years, and these people would go to these comedy, these coffee shops and do stuff in front of their comics. And I know, Randy, when we're on stage, it sucks. We're eating it. We're eating shit. There's nothing worse. You feel like you're dirty. But it was so great just to sit there being in the game and getting paid. It's different if you're doing that like if you're doing a church on a Sunday and you weren't getting paid as an open mic. The thing is, that's, you know, for you, it's like you're in the game. And see, I'm not in the game anymore. I do occasional shows. Like when I worked with you with Joe, you know, I sat there and I made sure Joe paid me, besides what I got paid, a head per ticket. I worked for Joe at City Winery in Philly. The only time I do gigs now is I'll feature. My mom said, "You want a headline?" I said, "No, I don't want the responsibility. I don't want to do 45." I make sure I get paid per head besides what I get paid. But that's the thing with it, you're in the game, and that's what's great. And I remember doing gigs, man, just driving to these gigs, and you walk into this place and you look around. I remember I worked with this guy, Robert Jeter, an African American. And we were in West Virginia, and the guy said to me, he goes, "I've never met a black person." And we were like, wow. But we're like, but that's what it was all about. That's what comedy was about back then. And now what you're doing, you go out and you're making it happen. And there's so many idiots who sit at home and they go, "Oh, I can do comedy," and they make comments. But you know, you're going out and you're driving fucking 2 hours for $150, and it's awesome.
Yeah. So probably in the last, so I started training, like I do strongman competitions now. And for the most part, I do like one show a month or something like that. I mainly just like an open mic or something, you know, I haven't been doing it like I used to. I did get invited to come up to the a New York City comedy club, so I may check that out at some point. They want to put me in rotation for that and AC comedy, but just making the drive out there is kind of annoying.
Come do a guest set on February 24th at Pizzeria Uno in Maple Shade. I'll tell Dave. I'll go bring Andrew Riggs to a guest set. You come in and you do a guest set. Molly Sperduto is hosting. You probably know her. And Dave's doing a guest set. And Bob
Dave Evans
is headlining. And yeah, so come out. I'll get you on the show.
Okay.
We'll get Don on the show too. Don's never done.
Yeah.
Junior T-shirt.
Send me an Uber. I'll be there.
An Uber from Wisconsin. We can afford that.
If I win the lottery tomorrow, two things. One, I'm sending Andrew a Fiero full of Pringles. Okay, that's what I do. Don, I will send you an Uber to come to the show February 24th. I will send, but we'll fly you back because we'll just fly you out. But Andrew gets a Fiero full of Pringles. Unless he wants
if you give me an Uber out there, I'll find my own way back. Don't worry about it.
In the late 80s, early 90s, pulling up in a Fiero was not the same, but it was kind of like pulling up in a Ferrari. People were like, oh, for a little bit at least. They were like, what is that?
I had a Fiero. I graduated college in 86. In 87, I got a Fiero. And I remember my aunt worked at K Jeweler. She was she worked at Lane Bryant. My brother worked at K Jeweler. And she would tell people, my nephew has a Ferrari. And I'd be like, no, I have a Fiero. And I still remember I had the Fiero. I went to see In Excess at the Spectrum, the band In Excess, and Public Image Limited was opening. I wore leather pants and I had a white turtleneck. I was totally Euro trash. I was looking at the thing. And I hung out and I went to visit. Me and my buddy went and we drove the Fiero and then we ended up hanging out. And it started raining. And he said, dude, you just crash at my place. I said, I'm going to drive home. And I woke up. I put the Fiero around a telephone pole a block from my house. And I ran home. I still remember there was a kid like at fucking 5 a.m. out there. So later, I'm walking to my friend's house, and a little kid goes, "Hey, weren't you the guy who put his tree around the pole?" And I said, "Shut up, else I'll fuck you." And he ran.
My stepdad actually had a Fiero, but he had like one of those ones. So they used to sell these body kits for Fieros that you could make them look like Lamborghinis or Ferraris or like various other things. And like if you weren't a car person and you've seen it, you may be like, that is that. But if you are a car person and you see it, you go, what are you doing? And he had this. Okay, so in front of my house, there was a 6-foot culvert. And I mean like 6 foot in depth. It was a ditch, basically. Like it was huge. And he was like, you want to see something cool? I'm going to do a burn. So our driveway was gravel, and it was in front of 55. Anybody that's watching at home knows what I'm talking about, LaGrange Road. And he's like, watch me, I'm going to do sick burnout. And okay, so it's just like the driveway and then 2 lanes. And on the other side is just like it's just a bunch of grass. So you have to know what you're doing. And the problem with flooring it and a Fiero coming off of a gravel driveway into a 2-lane road is that nothing good is going to happen. So he did a 720. He spun around in the road twice and then ran down into the culvert and then upside at there was a tree on the bank, and he stood it up on the tree. And he was going, I don't know what to do. I think I was like 12 years old.
Dude, mine went around the telephone pole when I fell asleep. I ran home, and thank God we knew someone who owned a body shop. They came and picked the car up. I had to go to the hospital for a concussion, but I never got a DUI because it was the 80s. I was wearing leather pants. What do you think I was doing? I was partying my balls off.
You think I'm so
Denny's?
Leather pants.
But it was funny though. Yeah, the Fiero though. You don't see them many times. And I was the other day I was somewhere and I saw a Fiero. I was at the Haddonfield. I had a meeting in Haddonfield, and I was at the Haddonfield Speedline station. I always park in there because it's free. No one's going to sit there and go, oh, this person can't. I'm not going to pay for the street when I can park for free. And there was a Fiero, and I wanted to just sit on the top like Tawny Kitaen in that White Snake video. I wanted to roll over it and video it going, man, Fiero, it's a way of life. Like the Fiero was a car but you don't see them anymore. That's the first Fiero I've seen in like 10 years.
Hold on, I'm going to pull this up just so people can see the glory of.
Do not pull up a Fiero GT, because you pull the GT, you guys are all dead to me. I'll get off this call. You gotta get the Fiero.
According to an extremely quick Google search,
I think that there's
maybe 7,500 Fieros on the road today.
That's it. Is that unbelievable? Like, you think about it.
It says that there's 370,000 made. Most people would say that probably only 2% are left.
That's the GT. Get rid of that. That's the GT.
It is a GT?
That's the GT because it's got the back and the thing.
Oh, wait. I thought that they had bigger badges.
But no, let's just go back, because this will get me very upset if it's a GT. And it is.
Wait, this is a GT. This is a GT. All that they have up here. I just wanted.
Come on, Don. Just give us the legendary white Fiero.
Is this? Wait, here.
GT.
There you go. No, that's also a GT.
GTs.
There's only.
Oh, this guy's scolding me like I'm the one bringing up the wrong pictures.
Oh, it's Andrew's bringing up.
It is me,
brother.
It's fine.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. People,
there's no
watching. You don't know the beautiful. Just put 1986 Fiero metallic maroon. Google that, because these are all GTs.
Metallic maroon. That sounds like a beautiful
color. Right there. Look, this one, this red one. Go down.
Here.
Down, right
no. Here.
I can't. Right here. It's
I can't see what you're.
Right here, he says.
You guys can't tell. Right there. That's it. No, go one up. Yeah, right there.
This is all
Fiero. That's
GT.
A Fiero. That's not a GT.
Look right there.
They're wrong, because that has a thing. That's a GT. That one's not. Take the thing off the back. That was.
Look, I couldn't tell you, to be honest.
Look right here.
I'm not going to argue about it. I'm just saying that has a foiler, but the GT had the rounded back. I can't believe I come on your show to talk about me.
So, all right.
I'm joking.
Sorry.
This is what I love. See, this is why podcasting and interviewing on YouTube is great, because you just talk about stuff.
Yeah.
And, there's so many people that I know. I know a lot of young podcasters, and they'll get an act on their show, and they'll sit there and they'll be a fucking fanboy, and it's like, no, you just talk to people. I was sitting there. You ever heard of a band called Great White? Jack Russell, Great White. Jack sitting there, and they burnt the whole bar down and all that shit.
Yeah, that's what the song. I can't think of it right now. The song's about that.
Once, twice, bitten twice, whatever. But he ended up telling me a story. And this is what podcasting and what you guys do is all about. He ended up telling me a story about how he shot a maid and when he was over for Aerosmith. It was crazy. But anyway, I'm glad you showed the Fiero, but I was very upset it was the GTs.
I'm sorry. I'm doing my best.
But no, did you ever talk to your it used to be your stepdad, or it's your stepdad now?
I talked to him from time to time. He what did he do? He traded. I think the Fiero actually didn't get any scratches on it after he wrecked it somehow, and then he traded it for a K5 Blazer. I don't know if you remember those big square body. Basically just a big square body Blazer. They're a big deal.
When my Fiero lease ran up, I was missing one of the hubcaps, and if you ever talk to your stepdad, the hubcaps always disappeared.
Yeah.
And there was a comic in Philly at the time. This was 1990. His name was Fat Nick. And we called him Fat Nick because he weighed 400 pounds. Now you couldn't say that because it's on PC. But he was Fat Nick, and he would sit there and he'd always wore the same outfit, like those baggy jeans because the only ones would fit him, and a sleeveless T-shirt with a very bad spray paint logo, like they said, fat.
Yeah.
he got me hubcaps because I said, I got to return this to the dealer. And he bought me hubcaps, but my hubcaps were silver. And he got me 2 gold ones. And I spray painted them. And I took the car up to the dealer. It started raining. And I was so worried because I worry all the time that the hubcaps would run. But that was the last time I had the Fiero. And I had about 90,000 miles. And back then I had someone turn the miles back to 58.7. So I walked out and I got the security check back and I was a happy guy. And that's what 1991 was for me. Just being happy.
Okay. So you did, how long did you do comedy? Like overall?
I was on the road from 88 to probably 94. I went up and down the East Coast. I made a good living. I played for Nick DiPaolo in San Diego. It was good, but I got married, and my first wife was an asshole, and she hated when I went on the road, and I ended up getting out of comedy because of her, and that was about it. And I moved, and we ended up in LA, and we got divorced, and I just went to different venues. I went to different things. I'd get on stage occasionally. I mean, when I worked with you, when I came back here, my wife now, I would visit from LA, and everyone in Philly knew me. I was a comic who was in LA, and I had a popular podcast. I was interviewing everybody. I was considered a star, which was so stupid because I'm not. Even though the Philadelphia comic base is sort of lame, but not, I mean, the older people, not the young. The young ones are good. But I came back, and I go, hey man, can I come do a set? And they go, yeah, man, can you just interview this guy? And so I came back, and I would when I would come back, and that's why I was still in LA. I was doing comedy in LA a little bit, but I would come back here and do shows, and it was great. But I did comedy, so back to I did comedy for a long time, but I got out of it professionally in 95, and then I moved to LA in probably 98.
Did you ever do any shows in
Cincinnati?
Yeah.
No. And I know there's a great club. There was my friend Chip Chinnery is from Cincy, who was a big commercial actor, and Cincy had a good comedy scene. There was a club down there that was a big club. It was a Funny Bone at Cincy, right?
There's 2 down there. So you're gonna have the Funny Bone, and then you're gonna have Go Bananas. Go Bananas. They've been like a home club to me. So like I said, I moved back to like the Cincinnati area in 2022, and accepted me, and they, fun shows up there. That's an awesome club. The Funny Bone is also cool. It's in Liberty, I think. I got to do all those Funny Bones. There's one in Dayton. There's one in Des Moines. There's one in Cincinnati. Another one in Columbus. Yeah.
Well, what's funny about comedy is this. When I came back, when I first started dating my wife, I was bi-coastal for a year and a half. And I would come back, and I would book myself a Steve Trevelise at a club, Scarpati's clubs. I would feature for them, okay? And I work with acts, and I'd be like, all right, whatever. They're still doing the same act they did many years ago. Me, I was just running around. And I had some credits. I've been on TV. I whatever. But what's funny these days is like Dave Evans, who runs Pizzeria Uno, always asks me, "Do you want a headline?" And I go, I don't feel like doing a time. Well, last show I packed the place and I blew the headliner off the fucking stage. And then Matt Reese brings me on, and I go, "You saw me that night. I'd been for 2.5 years, and I blew the fucking room out." And then I did City Winery. But what's funny is, this area is so weird. When I first moved back 6 years ago, Joe said to me, "Hey, you want to open for me at Helium?" And I don't even been in town for like a week and a half. And I said, yeah. So I go up and I bring people. People come out to see me because I'm from Cherry Hill. People want to see me. So I do 2 shows out of this 3 because he was taping a special. And I asked the manager, I go, "Hey man," I go, can I get some MC gigs here? I used to headline B clubs. He's like, "Oh no, you can come to the open mic." And I'm like, "Fuck you, man." And so then I talked to this one guy who runs Derailed Comedy, and I said, "Hey man," I go, I was about to do City Winery with Matarese. This was this summer.
Yeah.
So I called the guy at Comedy Works, Kevin, David or whatever his name is. He said, yeah, come do something. I call Scarpetti. So I'm doing guest sets at the only clubs around. And I called this guy and, hey, man, can I do a guest set? And he said, you can come to my open mic. I'm like, fuck you. I'm like, yeah. City Winery.
Yeah.
Well, I was a little worried when you said, I want to work the rust out. And for you comedy Arthurians, Wendy Liebman is one of the best female comedians ever. She's done my show 5 times. She'll book me. Rich Scheidner is a god, one of my best friends. Jim Florentine, Bobby Levy. I said, they'll all call you. And I'm thinking, this guy, this is so fucked up comedy is. This guy's sitting there and going, yeah, you come to my open mic. So I walk into this open mic. It's at Pizzeria Uno, which actually I did headline one time. And when I play there, I bring 40 people. So I walk into this open mic. It's in the summer. It's like 6 o'clock at night. It's all comics. It's light out. The MC, Derailed Comedy, sits there and goes, yeah, hey, how you doing? So we got a great show tonight. And he brings me up. And of course I'm going to eat shit. And I'm sitting there going, dude.
Wait, is this hold on, let me.
You will never walk on the stage and sit around anyway. And it was just funny. And that's the problem with comedy right now.
Is this who I think it is? It is. It is this guy. Okay.
So tell me your story about him, Andrew, because I know you have a story because you said, do you know who
yeah. Okay. So he was not it's because he's not very good at promotion, I guess. Or he just whatever. So he's like, hey, blah blah blah. You wanna help me sell some tickets? So I'm like, I mean, yeah, well, like a spot on the show.
Andrew, real quick, is the initials JS?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So he he goes, basically he offered me a spot on the show, and then I said I sold tickets. I think I sold like 10 or 10, 15, something like that. And then I was like, blah, blah, blah. So, what is this like? Where am I going to be? What's the lineup looking like? Sort of thing. And then he's like, oh, well, actually, I don't have like the time for you. And I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't have the time? That's not how this works. And I have like people coming in from out of town. It was just, it was a clusterfuck. It was a clusterfuck in the beginning.
People don't get. It's like when I worked with you with Joe's show on Valentine's Day 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Joe didn't coordinate that. So the guy, the DJ, fucking Jerry Blavin, it was awful. Fucking the shit was so loud, there was feedback coming out. And Joe's like, why did I spend all this money for this stage? He sits there and he sends an email. I had 60 people come to that show. And he goes, yeah, so Steve, we're thinking you can do 6 minutes up front. I sent Matarese a text. I said, dude, 6 minutes. I said, I'm going to have everyone cancel their tickets so you can go fuck yourself. And he's like, cool. But I was like, so I made him let me do 18. But that's the thing is some people.
Did you? That guy, the promoter, that guy. So I think I sold 20, 25, something like that.
We brought a lot of people. Both of you brought a lot of people.
Yeah. So, I mean, 5 seconds before I go up, he's like, I think the whole night, I was like, so how much time am I doing? And then he was like, 10. And then he goes, no, never mind. Scratch that. 4 minutes. It's a packed house. And I don't know. You probably never had to, maybe you've had to do this before. Ever hear that you get 5 minutes or whatever amount of time, you're like, I need the best whatever time that I have. These are the funniest jokes, or these hit the hardest right now, whatever it happens to be. So I get ready, and then right before I walk on stage, He goes, "Can you do 11?" I was like, "I don't know what 11 minutes is. No one has ever done 11 minutes. Not like."
National TV is 7 minutes. And yeah, you're right. It's somebody like when he said that, I said no. I told Joe, I said, I'm not doing it. Joe's like, do as much as you want. And I said, I am doing as much as I want. But what's funny is the guy was like sitting behind the DJ scale the whole time when I'm doing my show. And I made fun of him. I kept calling him Jerry Blabbit before Jerry Blabbit. I'm like, yeah, fucking give it up for Jerry Blabbit. And I'm like, dude, get out of here. Because you know what? And it was the concept was great. But the problem is with DJs, sometimes DJs are they're very frustrated entertainers who don't have the balls to get on stage. So they'll spin the records and go, hey, people, bring it up for Andrew Riggs. Andrew Riggs is a boy. And in the middle of your set, they'll do like something like, yeah, that's a funny joke. And you're like, dude, you're a DJ. Shut up.
You remember they walked over to us and it was like, I think it was before the show. They were like trying to plan it out, or he was trying to plan it out. And he was like, we're going to have a 20-minute intermission in between you two and Joe. And we're all like, a 20-minute intermission.
Exactly.
Like,
it doesn't work that way. And the funny thing is,
the whole crowd stacked. They're no longer.
I felt bad. I felt bad for you because you were stuck between me and Joe, and me and Joe had the same crowd. We have the South Jersey. We have all the references: South Jersey, Italian, Jewish. The crowd was like 50 and up. I mean, there's a few 45-year-old people, and but I was like, dude, this just worked the show. And it's funny because I said to Joe, I said maybe Andrew should go before me because he's younger, and you know, it's not the Cherry Hill Jewish population. Joe's like, you haven't been on stage for 2.5 years. And dude, I'm going to be honest. I was so nervous getting on stage. I was looking at my Fitbit and it was like at 150. And the whole time I'm walking the stage, I feel like my right foot is getting numb. And I'm like, I'm going to stroke out. And we're going to sit there. And I had all these people. I had 60 people come to see me in this business networking group. And I'd never met them in person. And that put so much pressure on me because they come to my networking group. And I go, yeah, I've done comedy. What if I go up and I eat shit? They're going to go, Cooper's the biggest fucking asshole ever. So I'm walking up. And all I could think was like, the movies where like the guy drags his leg to the right.
Yeah.
And I swear, I thought I was going to have a stroke. And I walk up and I'm sitting there and I get on stage and I'm so nervous. And I have that shitty DJ and the feedback is awful. And I get the mic and I say something that's because it's a DJ who does nothing about comedy.
Yeah.
And I said something. I made a 80s reference, got a laugh. Then I went into the complete stock joke, and I have no problem with stock jokes, and you can say I'm a hack. But I said, "Oh, it's Valentine's Day." I said, I got my wife a dozen roses. She goes, I guess you're expecting me to be on my back all week with my legs wide open. I said, yeah, well, you don't have a vase, and it killed. And then I got into the moment and I just did my shit. And the funny thing about that show was I hadn't been on stage for 2.5 years. I did, of my 15-minute set, 12 minutes was all new. I never did. I wrote it. I don't practice. I write the shit down on a book. I look in the book because I have a bad memory, and I just go for it. But I won't hold the notes, but I have it in my mind. But then I just riffed on it, and it was great. We had a great show. It was a great show because it was so packed, and it was Don. Just so you know, it was in South Jersey, and people had not been out, man. It was right after the pandemic. People had to laugh.
The quarantine got lifted. I think it was like 2 weeks before that. And then maybe 3.
And my financial planner, I know from networking, is right in the front seat. So I can't make fun of him because you think you can talk to the crowd while I look. And I see my financial planner right there, a girl who blew me under the boardwalk in 1986 over there. I see someone else here. And I'm like, well, I can't fuck around with people. And thank God Joe went up and made fun of my financial planner. And this is why I love Joe. He goes, hey, man, you look rich. He goes, you're one of those dudes that wears loafers with tassels and shorts. And I went, that's why I love Joe Matarese, because he brought that shit out. And my friend texted me after, he goes, Joe Matarese is the best.
Yeah, I was like, I was pretty nervous. Like going up there, you know, I walk up there, I see some lady that blew Steve under a boardwalk in 1986. I'm like, are they gonna like me? And no, it was good. You both spoke at the same time, so I have no idea what either of you said. So,
I don't know what he said, and he doesn't know what I said. Hey, it all works.
I said, Don, she blew Andrew after the show. So
that's right.
All good. Was that big water bottle?
She's 75 years old. So
weird. Good to know. Well, what I said was I run into that lady way too often. I see her all the time. Everywhere I go, I'm like, oh, that's the lady from 1986.
Yeah. No, yeah. It was really, I didn't know how it was going to go. And like after the show, people were asking to like take pictures with me, which caught me off guard. And then some lady who still follows me on Instagram to this day, walked up and grabbed my face. I don't, it was obviously one of your fans, but like you or Joe's fans, because I had never seen this lady before in my life. And she walks up and she grabs me by the face and she's like whisper yelling at me. So she's like, "You're the future of comedy." And she's like holding my face. And I'm like, thank you. And then she's like, let's take a picture. And she's like holding her phone the wrong way.
I know you're talking about.
So she took a picture of the like 3 times.
I know exactly who you're talking about, because it's someone that I had met at a networking lunch for South Jersey Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah,
a few weeks before, and she walks up because all these people. I don't tell people I do comedy, so they would come out, and she was drunk, and she's like, oh my god, we just met. We have so much in common. I'm like, really? I'm not drunk. And she's like, yes, I'm a performer. I sing. I go, I doubt she was the same person, because she's like, oh my god, there's a comic. And I was sitting there, and then I was thinking, I'm like, does this person know, how wasted she is, and being like, people don't get that. Like, some people say, you're the future of comedy, and you're like, I don't want to be the future of anything. But it's just funny. But that's what's great about shows, though. You get people who are wasted, and but that show was a great show.
It was, yeah.
It was packed.
I would like to do, if we could do something like that again with maybe a different organizer, I think that would be a good time.
Nah, I don't. Wait. We can do something. You can do a guest set at my show coming up. It only holds 45 people, but February 24th. Look at me, February 24th. February 24th.
Sunday. Wait, no. Saturday.
Andrew Riggs is going to do a guest set if he's free. February 24th at Pizzeria Uno in Maple Shade, New Jersey, and it's going to be Bob Morrisdale's headlining. I'm featuring. Dave Evans, who books it, is doing a guest set. Molly Spatuto is hosting, and maybe Andrew will do a guest set. I'll tell Dave. I'll call Dave tomorrow. I'll go, hey man, Andrew Riggs is doing a guest set, so we're going to set it up, because he always wants people to do guest sets. But he can't follow me, and Bob can't follow me, because no one can follow me, because I should be fucking headlining, but I'm too goddamn lazy to sit there and go, yeah, I don't want to do 45 minutes. Just let me do 30 minutes. Let me get it $5 a head off the tickets.
Yeah, the past like year, I guess, broke me down and built me up. Doing all that, like the stuff I did, and since, I mean, I was already 5 years into comedy, and like I was getting put on these lineups with people just in like following, or following those headliners will just drop in for like a 5-minute set or whatever, and then they'll just bump you one spot, and then you have to follow them. And I think that, like, at first I hated it. I really did. I was like, why? Why go do something else? Don't come in here making me work for it. And now I'm glad. I'm glad that that happened.
It makes you stronger. But like for me, you know, I sit there when I do a show, I only want to feature, I'll do a guest set. I'm going to tell you this much. I don't want to do comedy as a living anymore. I did it. I don't want that. But I want to sit there and I want to seek and destroy any person that's after me. And I'm going to blow them off the fucking stage just to sit there and walk away. And they go, you should come back in this club. I go, nah, you can't pay me, man. Yeah. Unless you can, you know, pay me. And that's the thing. And it's an ego thing. And then the bottom line is I went through the crap days. I went through, you know, doing open mics, and I went through when open mics were real and club owners being dicks. But now I'm like, I feel bad for comics now because they don't have the venues. Like back in the day, the Comedy Factory Outlet, the Comedy Works, people came. Like there'd be like 60 people in the audience for an open mic, and you pick names out of a hat, and there's only 25 acts. Now you don't have a mic; it's all comics. I went on stage and I told people, I said, Jesus Christ, like performing in front of comics is like a vegan going into a steakhouse. They're gonna shit on it, and I don't care. But that's the thing. It's comedy's weird, and you know, Andrew, and you know,
open mics now are basically it'll be like 30 comics, 2 to 5 like audience members, and all of the comics are doing this.
And they're hashtagging.
They like look up and they go.
So you guys,
and they're hashtagging "love my job." It's not your job.
You guys have both done open mics. What do you guys think of Kill Tony?
I haven't watched it. I don't. You know, I'll be honest. I have a podcast. I don't watch any of that shit. Kill Tony, was it Tony Hitchcock or whatever?
Hitchcock.
They evaluate comics.
Mm.
Yeah, okay. Basically Tony Hinchcliffe and Brian Redband, and then they have sometimes 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 guests, and then those guys basically just
judge my opinion.
Everyone gets 1 minute. You pull a name out of the hat, they get 1 minute to do stand up, and then
you can't associate yourself 1 minute. But sorry to interrupt before you answer anything. I'm gonna tell you.
No, that was basically
this. If you want to watch the funniest comic out there, my friend Jimmy Schubert is one of the funniest comics you will ever fucking see. If you're not familiar with Jim Schubert,
what's that name?
He's been around forever. Jimmy used to drive his motorcycle up in the Comedy Store. He used to be Sam Kinnison's Coke Wrangler. He was in the Outlaws. The dude sits there. He's from Philly. Jimmy's been in a bunch of movies, and that if you want to go see a live comic, my wife and me were visiting my mother-in-law and her late husband in Florida, and Jimmy was playing in a club, and I called him. I said, "Put us on the guest list." And man, I don't watch comedy. I don't go to comedy, but Jimmy Schubert goes in and just destroys. This guy seeks and destroys. And I will sit there and I'll tell my wife Joanne, I'll go check out this clip from Schubert. It'll be an Instagram clip. Funniest guy in the country. He's been in a lot of TV and movies. He's been, you know,
he's been on King of Queens, Reno 911, Monk, The Italian Job. Wow, yeah, he's got a really long list of stuff.
But he is club-wise, that is one of the funniest comics you will ever see because he doesn't give a shit. And he just goes off on these tangents. And Jimmy has a limp because he got a bad accident. And it's funny, Jimmy used to come to my Super Bowl party in LA. And Jimmy and this other comic, Jimmy Della Valle, they would sit there and they would sit in my kitchen and drink vodka. And if you ever go to a party with a lot of comics, no one sits down. They always sit there. They don't try to overtake people, but they have stories. And I'm not that way because I'm an interviewer. So I would sit there and listen to Jimmy and like, yeah. Schubert would be like, yeah, fuck it, I'm sitting there. Yeah. And the other guy would be like, yeah, so I'm sitting there. And it's the great. But if you guys want to see a good comic, just go see Jimmy Schubert or watch his clips because it's what comedy should be. And you know, comedy is an art form. And you know, no matter what people say, you know, what Rodney Dangerfield did was an art form. It was a one-liner. It was just delivering and just giving it. Stephen Wright, you know, it was, you know, you think about what Stephen Wright went through doing open mics. I mean, you know, Andrew, you do open mics back in the day. Full House. Stephen Wright's doing these little monologue jokes. People are like, "What the fuck is this guy doing?" Schubert's like that, so he's just
remembering 45 to 52 minutes is absurd.
Oh, dude, there's a guy named Geechee Guy passed away a while ago. Geechee Guy was on Star Search and all that, but he would do all one-liners. And you think, and John Mendoza is the same. They would do 160 jokes, dude. I can't even remember my act. That's why I put them a right sit down. One-liners are an art form, and to sit there and do it for 45 minutes and keep the crowd, it's amazing.
I think, so what I do is I do the pretty typical, like, I'll just write out, like a 2-word, like, to make sure that I'm on track. So I'll just write down, like, if someone looks at my notes and if anybody other than me looks at my notes, they're going to be like, you're a crazy person. That's what it looks like, because it's just like, kind of the punchline of the joke. And I'm like,
do the same thing. Yeah. I write the premise, but I write them down, and I don't even look at them. I just put them behind me because I forget. I had a bad head injury. I was at a party. Well, actually, there used to be a DJ in LA called Tom Likas, and I was at a Kings game with him, and my friend was a bartender in the private club, and I was doing shots of tequila. I was fucking hammered. And then I went to a party at this house in the Hollywood Hills, and they had a cart, a little golf cart that drove around the botanical garden. So I'm sitting there with my old girlfriend, and I'm standing up going, "I'm the king of the world." And the guy turned the wheel, and I flew off, and my head exploded. And I'm sitting there, and the paramedics come, and they go, "Oh, they're doing that light thing." And my buddy is like, "Dude, he's cross-eyed. He can't follow it." So I ended up in the hospital with a brain injury, and I still had the bump on my head. And from that, they didn't have joy, but I sort of lost my memory, and probably all the years of partying. And so when I go on stage, I put that little thing next to me, just remember. But the funny thing is, I never go off that. I'll sit there and I'll turn to it, but I'll write my notes just to give me a prompt. And I don't have a problem with that, because it's like I sit there, like I've worked with so many acts who have done their act for so long. I worked with a guy when I moved back who was doing Ronald Reagan and Schwarzenegger impressions. And I'm like, I texted Joe Matarese, and I go, "This motherfucker's doing the act he did in 90." And I did a benefit with him like 2 years ago. And the guy changed his rice-a-roni jokes to whatever, because they were stupid. But I was like, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to memorize. That's why I got out of it in the first place. I was in Youngstown, Ohio, headlining a show at the Funny Farm. And in the middle of my set, I felt myself go into a autopilot. And I said, I don't want to do comedy anymore. I can't, because it's not fun. I'm that corporate person I don't want to be. That's why I have it. And that's why comedy's supposed to be fun. Take your notes up, enjoy yourself, have fun.
Yeah. So I recorded like a short special for, I don't know, just like you promoters or bookers, whatever like that. And what I did is I think I wrote down like 10 print, and I taped it on the floor so that I didn't have to look at my note. I just I would look down at the floor, and there's so it doesn't look like I'm doing anything. Sorry if I gave away any of the trade secrets in saying that, but a lot of people that do like specials, that's what they do, is they just tape it on the floor.
Janine Garofalo just walked up with a notebook. She was like, "Fuck all you guys." So
did Carlin. I mean, Carlin also wrote these insane monologues. I don't know. I'm a good joke writer. In my humble opinion, I'm a good joke writer, and I could never write word for word that much time. That sounds like a headache.
With the joke writing is funny. When I lived in LA, I used to work for a company called Spliff, and it was when cost per click was big. and we would write jokes. And the guy who was my boss was a comedy mentor of mine. His name was Jeff Martyr, and Jeff Martyr did the Tonight Show when he was 21, and he got Couch. And Jeff did Arsenio. Jeff did every show. He had HBO specials. He did the two sides of the brain, the right side and the left side, and Rita Rudner helped him develop that bit. And Jeff would sit there, and I would go into the office, and I'd have to write 41 jokes because we'd have a campaign. Let's say FX was doing a car racing. I have to write jokes, and I would sit there and I would systematically write a joke, but it wasn't the stuff I do on stage. And I learned how to write a good joke. I've learned how to write a good joke on Twitter, back when Twitter was Twitter, when I knew you couldn't go, because I tend to over expose. And that's the thing about joke writing. I do it on Facebook. I'll see myself out. I write the stupidest fucking jokes, and I do it. And the funny thing is, people are like, that's so stupid. I go, yeah, it's hard to write a stupid joke. My friend wrote for iCarly, and it was like he had no kids. He was 41. Unless you're a pedophile, how do you write for a kids show? He just learned. But he wasn't a pedophile. I mean, he gave me a hand job, but it was like, how do you learn to write like that? And that's the thing about comedy. You can write comedy and it can be great. And there's people who write like shit, but they can be like, yeah, I'm this guy. And that's what makes comedy so great. We don't think about it, but it's like, there are acts that are awful, that are popular. They're awful. You break it down, you go, oh my God. And then there's acts that are great that you'll never see. And that's what's good. But with comedy, it's all about writing. Don, we didn't even talk to you. I didn't even talk about my great podcast. God, I feel bad. Me and Andrew have been taken up all the time. Poor, what are you drinking, Don? Are you drinking a Bud Light?
Oh no, I'm
it's a Hamm's.
Is it Hamm's? Hey, I was gonna make him guess.
Dude, no wait.
I was gonna say from the land of sky blue waters. I was gonna see if you knew what that was, but
dude, you can get Hamm's. You have Hamm's up there?
I got Hamm's up here.
Oh my God, that's the shit. It's like when I moved back from LA, I drank Yingling all the time. Hamm's is the shit. It's like Schlitz. It's like Stroh's.
I've never had a Yingling.
Well, you know what? You're gonna have to come visit Andrew. You can sleep on his couch. He just told me.
There you go.
I know. I got some Southern friends that like it. Is that where it's big? Like Southeast?
It's in Philly, man. It's in Philly, and it's also in Florida.
I have no idea. I've never heard of it. I don't think.
Have you ever drank a beer, Andrew? You don't look like a kid who never drank.
I've drank 3 beers in my life, so I bet you feel kind of silly.
Have you ever smoked pot?
What is it, like the triple X, like the I can't think of it. I'm having a brain fart right now.
Oh, the straight edge.
Yeah, straight edge. Yeah, straight edge.
Andrew, have you ever smoked pot?
He's got the straight edge tattoos on his forearms. Yeah.
Yeah, I smoked probably every day up until like 2016, something like that.
Can I tell a pot story real quick? Am I allowed? I don't want to
go ahead.
I don't want to overexpose, but okay. I grew up in New Jersey smoking the shit weed, the fucking seeds and sticks and all that stuff. You got Pink Floyd album, you'd open it up, you'd get a 3x5 card and watch the seeds come down.
Yeah.
And then, I was in college, I smoked some Thai stick, and I remember one night I smoked some shit that was laced, and I thought I was going. I remember the guy, we called him Cowboy. He was like a freshman, and he was like 10 years older than all of us, but he lived in the dorms, and I stopped smoking, but I was in LA. And when I lived in LA, I lived in Burbank, and I could walk down to the main street of the bars. It was 3 walk. And I get fucking hammered and whatever. But one time someone gave me hydroponic strong pot. My friend was an architect. The alley of this bar. And now, and this was, it was whatever. So I smoke it. I'm like, yeah, it's cool, man. Take a few bowls. And then I start walking up to go home. And I turn the corner and I have 3 blocks to go. And the shit that they have now is so strong, I couldn't move. I sat on a bench and I called this dude. And I go, yo, Mark, man, brother Mark. I said, I can't, you gotta drive me home. He's like, dude, I'm already back in North Hollywood. I go, dude, I fucking can't get home. And he goes, you're only 3 blocks away. And I'm like, I can't move. And now you understand Burbank. It's like, I wouldn't get hassled because I'm white. But Burbank, you know, the cops were assholes.
Yeah.
So I sat there on a bench for like an hour calling all my friends. And finally, some dude came from like 20 minutes away and put me in the back of his car and drove me up. And I had to crawl up my steps. And I lived in a 2-level. So I get in the bottom floor and I'm like, oh, laying like this. And then I'm like, I don't want to sleep because I had this at the time. I had this shitty futon. Like basically, if you sat on this futon, you get pregnant. I mean, seriously, it was so bad it was. So I sat there and I'm like, oh. And I remember crawling up the steps, and I slept in the hall of my room. My roommate, who actually fucked the wrestler China, which is a very different story, sat there and he's like, Coop, go to bed. And he kicked me. And like after 5 hours, I finally got up and crumbled. That's why I don't smoke pot, because it was the worst experience ever.
So my worst experience with pot was, do you know what dabs are, Steve?
I don't know guys, but I know real quick, let me interrupt.
Yeah.
Have you heard of it's a sativa? No. It's called you get it at gas stations. It's
like CBD Delta 8.
No, it's
is it about like spice?
It's like spice, but it's something like spice. I just
What,
real quick.
sativa?
It's called
The kratom, or what do you?
It's one of those things you get at the gas station, and it's
Okay.
Before you tell your story, my friend got it, and I forget what it's called, and he brought it to this party. And my friend had this cool house in Reseda, and we sat there, and they started smoking it, and I'm like, I don't want any part of that shit. And my one friend just sat in the kitchen and laughed and laughed and laughed. And my other friend smoked it, and he just
Salvia. Is it
salvia?
Is
Yes,
that,
salvia.
okay.
And my other friend
As
smoked
soon as
it, and
he
he
said
just
it, I
goes
was
like this.
like, yep.
He goes like this. He goes, and he falls, and he's out, and we're all worried. And my friend who brought it is freaking out to me, and he's like, Coop, what if he dies? Is this manslaughter? I'm like, I don't fucking know. But that's why I never buy shit at gas stations, because it's awful. But tell me your pot story.
All right, so I'm gonna tell you my other story, and then I'm gonna wrap back around to that. Salvia. So we got some salvia online, all right, and it got sent to us from England in a book, and it had like the pages cut out, and we had heard like, if you smoke this, it's like you're gonna go on a journey, like some kind of spiritual journey. And we had like a Sherlock Holmes looking, like a deep bowl pipe, like the bowl on it was like this big, and then it just Sherlock Holmes. When we got it out, it was like, and it smelled like just like cinnamon. And we put it in the thing, and I smoked a lot of weed at this point. Like I was still smoking every day, 4 or 5 times a day. I take a rip off this salvia, and I go, it's probably not even going to do anything to me. I smoke weed all the time. That's what I said. And then I felt the speed at which the earth rotates around the sun. Like it felt like stars were passing me at more than light speed. And I gotta go. I was sitting in the back seat of my cousin's Crown Vic when this happened, and I grabbed his seat, and I was, I go, slow it down, and I get out. It is the middle of winter. It is 20 degrees outside. I get out, and I'm in the desert. I mean, there are cactuses, and I go, where are we, guys? And then I'm like, if I run fast, my brain goes, if I run fast enough, I can make it out of the desert. I'm in Kentucky. There's no desert. I take running, and it feels like I'm running. Like if this is the ground, this is my body. It feels like I'm running at like a 45-degree angle. And then I get up to the porch, and my grandfather, who had been asleep for hours, is just awake. Opens the door and he looks at me. Are you proud of what you made? And I was like, So that was Salvia's rough. So weed. So dab, basically what that is, it's an extraction. If you don't know, it's an extraction. It's oil. It's like hard, like it's a concentrate.
I just broke my rig. Never mind. Sorry.
Oh yeah. So you can't do dabs. So a normal hit of a dab for like a casual marijuana smoker is somewhere between a third of a tenth. So there's obviously 10 tenths in a gram, so it's a little bitty. It's about the size of a head. I was like, I could do a half-gram dab. I smoke same thing. I was like, I smoke weed all the time. This is the same thing. I'm built different. People will never be able to stop me with weed.
I used to smoke dabs regularly, and I'm telling you right now that half-gram knocked you on your ass.
I got the rolling cough. So I was coughing for 7 minutes straight. I don't know if you know what it feels like to cough for 7 minutes straight.
Dude, even if you get a good dab, it's not enjoyable.
My ears,
like, it's not just like taking a nice little puff off of a pipe.
I don't
it's like even if you get a good dab, your throat is like.
That's I don't know why people do that. Like I did ecstasy when it was like fucking pure in like 87, and it was so good. I said I'm never gonna touch it again. I ended up doing it like 20 years later at Reggae in the River up in Humboldt County, as we listened to Ziggy Marley and stuff like that. But it's like for the dab and shit like that, when you know it's gonna fuck you up crazy. Like I didn't know the pot would fuck me up. I mean, we used to have a ritual at my place in LA, and I won't even mention some of the people that were over that would do it. And we do a few lines and we talk about, we talk and we get introverted. But when you smoke shit, I remember sitting there. I beat up Andy Dick, and one day I'll tell you that story. And he started crying, so I didn't put him under. I could have, but it was the thing is like with the dab though, it's like when you smoke, when you know it's gonna fuck you up. I mean, Andrew, do you know it's gonna fuck you up? Like,
no.
Like
I didn't know.
For 7 minutes, you call for 7. What is wrong with you guys?
I didn't know like that. So the only person prior to me ever doing this is a super introverted guy that, like, I guess he's kind of stoic. I guess you could call him. And he had took a decent sized dab, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, man, I'm pretty stoned."
So dab's an actual unit. Dab's a unit. It's not. It's
no, dab is a means of doing weed. I guess.
Like dabs are like it's like the oil. So it's like the oil that you excrete from the bud.
Yeah, the dab.
And then the way that you smoke it is you heat up. I mean, you can smoke it in multiple different ways, but if you want to do it like the correct way, I guess, you have a thing called an oil rig, which is kind of like a bong, but instead of a bowl that you pack flour into, you heat up the bowl with a torch until it gets red hot, and then you put the dab into that. And then that red hot glass burns the oil.
I'm in the wrong generation. That's too much.
It's really weird because I've done it. Done it, and it totally makes you feel like you're a drug addict all of a sudden.
You see,
like when you're just smoking a pipe or smoking a joint, you're like, yeah, I'm just having some fun. But then all of a sudden you're like heating shit up with like a torch, and all of a sudden you're like, man, I'm a drug addict. What am I doing?
That's like Winnie the Pooh getting fucking honey out. I mean, shit, just, like
it looks,
you throw it and you do a line. Pot, You roll it up in a joint. You smoke it. You put it in that. That shit. It's like chemistry. Fuck that, man. That's
the biggest problem with it is it ruins everybody. It ruins your
tolerance.
It ruins your tolerance, and then everything after that is nothing.
So that's great. That's what I look for. That's what I look for in a drug.
It looks like it looks like you're smoking a Q-tip. Is really what it looks like. It's gross.
Dirty ears.
There's too many
dirty ears. That is the dirtiest Q-tip. Here's a quick story. My friend, one of my best friends, is a sound man.
I love dirty Q-tips.
He actually sat there and he pulled the earplug of a reality show out of Tara Reid, and it was covered in earwax. And that's what it would look like. It was Tara Reid's Q-tip. He went, oh my God. He goes, I thought she was so hot. And I thought I might hook up with her. And then I took out the earpiece and it was all covered in earwax. And I said, this one dirty bitch. It's Hollywood people. Tara Reid has dirty ears.
No, I thought she was dead until like 2 months ago.
Tara Reid is actually, it's funny. She went, people don't get this in Hollywood. I'm friends with if you guys watch Family Ties, I'm friends with the guy who played Nick, and Nick was he was like Mallory's boyfriend, Scott Valentine, and he was this hot dude, and in Hollywood fucks you up. Like he told me, and he was straight up. He said, he would sit there. He goes, I remember sitting there on Hollywood Boulevard, and two girls running up to my car and saying, come back to my hotel room and fuck us. And he's like, I don't know you. Hollywood does that. And if you're 21, 22, 23, you're going to love that. I mean, when I was that age, if someone said, hey, Steve, let's just go party. Let's go crazy. It can destroy you. But the people who keep like Nick and people like that, and Scott who played Nick, they sit there and they commit to their craft. It doesn't happen. But Tara Reid she was just screwed up. I mean, when you go out and people are like, hey, man, drink this, drink that, they'll do it. And Hollywood back then would say, hey, Tara, you're 120 pounds. You're getting too fat. I mean, now Tara looks awful. She's so skinny and she shouldn't be. And it's just, that's what Hollywood does to you. And people don't understand that. That's what Hollywood is.
Yeah, I feel it's unfortunate. It really, really is. It's kind of made to chew you up and spit you out. I guess if you don't have any kind of healthy guardrails to keep you back, if you don't have like good friends, you're pretty much doomed.
And what people don't get also is, everyone says, "Oh, Hollywood, everyone's rich." I've lucky for Cooper Talk, CooperTalk.net people, 990 episodes. People I've talked to, actors who I've become good friends with. They say they go through shit. They've had series. I talked to Michael Boatman, who was a regular on Arliss, a regular on this show. And people made a lot of money. But all of a sudden, Hollywood says, you got to audition again. My friend is a writer was writer for Queen of the South and a few other shows. My old neighbor. And he said, Max von Sydow, who won an Oscar for The Exorcist or one of these movies, they made him audition. And this is what Hollywood is like. Do you guys know? I know you guys are younger. Do you know who Shelley Winters is?
Yes.
Shelley Winters was in the Poseidon Adventure. She won 2 Oscars. She won for older movies. So she's won 2 Oscars. She's been working. She gets, it's a classic Hollywood story. She gets called to do an audition. And she tells her agent, she goes, I'm not doing an audition. I won 2 Oscars. They're like, want to see you for an audition. So she walks into the audition with 2 bowling bags. She puts them on the table and they go, okay, what are they? She goes, pulls out the Oscars and goes, here's my fucking audition. Fuck you, cunts. And walks out of the room and she got the part. Because that's what Hollywood is now. It's awful. There's so much rejection. As I said, my friend Pat is on Patrick Fabian was in Better Call Saul. He still auditioned. Even after Better Call Saul was for 5 seasons, he had to audition for Beat. And it's crazy that Hollywood has become a part. Like we talked about Andrew, like when I was on the Ellen show, they called me. They said, we need someone who can look like one of Huey Lewis in the News. So I go on and I do the show. And they call us out and we walk, and it's a crazy thing. Ellen's like, hey, here's my squad. And she has Carrot Top come out and this person. Then she's like, here's Tina Turner. And it's this Filipino lady. Everyone's going crazy. And I'm like, Tina Turner's black. And then they go, here comes Huey Lewis, not Huey, but the news. And we walk out. The crowd goes crazy. And then, and that's what Hollywood is. You get your union card, you get paid whatever amount of money. And that's, I mean, we talked about Andrew, my hands, this has been on NCIS, this has been on Westworld.
Was it a dead hand or was it an alive hand?
I was on NCIS, biggest show in the country. That's
my comfort show. Just so you know, like I put that on before I go to bed, and I'm just like, oh, murder.
Well, this is how Hollywood works. They shot the episode, and the guy, and if you ever saw, I think it's the movie where Jack Black works in a record store. I think it's Cusack. It might be Empire Records. No, it's not Empire Records. It's whatever. But Jack Black and this other guy work in a record store with, I think, Tim Robbins. I think John Cusack's in it. High Fidelity. Yeah. And the guy who was in the scene with Jack Black, his record store, was on NCIS. Well, all of a sudden Hollywood goes, well, you know, we needed, the director says, I want this shot, and they don't want to pay the star like his $2,000 a day. So they called me in. They send my casting agent says, hey, they're looking for someone who's built like this guy, bald, whatever, which I don't show my head, and they want to see a picture of your hands. So my agent has a picture of my hands. So they send my hands to this. So I go into the NCIS, the studio, and now they're shooting shots and all the extras are there, but I'm whisked away to the side. I'm on my own thing. I'm eating lunch by myself, and I'm like a celebrity. And they bring me in and they go, here's what you got to do. And they have the second unit, which doesn't mean the director, and they have an apple cart, which means it's a milk crate I'm sitting on. Mm-hmm. And they have this fake table. And I go like this in my hand, and I go under and I push a button, and I do it like this. If you can see it, I do it like twice. And they take 4 scenes, and then they go, okay, cut, go home, Steve. So I get a union voucher. I get paid, I think it was $250 for whatever. And then 3 weeks or a month later, we're watching NCIS, and you see
my hands.
You see a scene of they cut, and they go, let him in, which it didn't add to the scene. And all you see is a hand going under. And then Westworld, they wanted to sit there and they wanted another scene. So I was built like the guy. They needed someone with fair skin. And the woman was Tandy Newton's body double. She acted like she had a scalpel go like this. And I went, that's it. Boom. Same thing. Cut. Boom. I watch that night. I watch Westworld, and you see my hands going. It's crazy. But like Silicon Valley, though, I did that, and I did Silicon Valley, and they said, we want you to be a security guard. All right. So I'm sitting in a truck with one of the leads, another guy who actually ended up being on my podcast, and someone else, another actor. So we get out, and we start walking, and then the whole scene was some guy throws, the character was Gavin Belson, throws a bucket of water, but it's full of confetti. So I grab the guy and I throw him. That's it. Show airs, my Facebook blows up. One of my best friends goes, dude, you never fucking told me you were in Silicon Valley. And I go, oh, it was nothing big. And that's like, it's like Superstore. They were walking to the scene. They said, they're picking all the people on the set. And they go, dude, do a face for us. They asked me to do a face, like a late face. So they go, you're in. So American Ferrera and them are walking down the aisle and they're throwing shit. They look at me and I go, once again, my Facebook blows up. I get like 100 instant messages. It's like when I did the Ellen show with the Huey Lewis. Yeah. My Facebook would blow up. And it was funny as I'm like, it was nothing big. But for people, they're like, you're on TV. Yeah. And I can say it. Like I sent you that picture, Andrew, of me with the Brooklyn thing. That was the beginning of, and that's the one thing I can say. I've been on TV, God, so many goddamn times, but I'm not one of these people who goes, I'm not gonna sit there and go, here's my credits. I've been on the Ellen Show. I've written jokes for some of the best comedians ever. I've interviewed the biggest stars, but the bottom line is, you know what? If I'm not making like $1 million a year, who gives a shit? You know, it's just Hollywood.
All right. So we're about at time. I have 2 questions to ask you, and I'd love for you to come back.
I would love to come back. This was the best. I'm just having fun.
We hardly got to like touch on like your podcast, so we're gonna bring you back for another episode, and I'd like to dive more into that. So I got 2 questions for you. We can do them kind of fire, I guess. Who is, in your opinion, the most rated actor within the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years?
The most what?
Overrated actor. Like
overrated.
Maybe the diversity of their acting isn't great. Maybe they're you feel like they've been cast for a lot, but they haven't really performed.
You know what? I'm going to be honest, Andrew, because I'm very close to the industry. I can't say who's overrated. I'll be honest, because, you know, it's like saying who's an overrated comic. I don't like to talk shit unless there are some hack fucking comic out of South Jersey or Delaware that, you know, are awful. Any comic, any actor, there's roles who are over, but you know, most no one's overrated. And I'll be honest. I mean, you know, you can sit there and you can watch a movie, I mean, and say, oh, that person was overrated. But then you see him in something else, and you can't. And I'll be honest, this isn't me pussying out, but I don't shit on anyone who gets to the point. It's like, I think Tom Cruise is annoying as shit. But then I watched the new Top Gun, and he's great.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, you know, Christopher Malone. No one. I'll be honest.
All right, so
I can't answer that.
I'll tell you mine.
Who? And maybe I will agree.
It's The Rock.
No. Okay.
No, he's always strong and cool. It's always him. He's always.
Give me 5 minutes. Can I get 5 minutes?
Okay. All right. So
I think there's
I'm going to tell you something about The Rock. I'm going to tell you something about The Rock.
Okay.
Here's something I'm going to tell you about The Rock.
Oh.
Do you know who Steven Weber is? He was on Wings. He was a great actor. He was on Ballers. And
who was I thinking of? Andrew Lloyd Webber. I was thinking of Andrew Lloyd Webber. I'm sorry.
Steven Weber's on Chicago Medicine or one of those shows. He said, you know, he worked with The Rock, and I said, what's it like working with The Rock? And he Ballers and this, and he goes, The Rock is exactly what he is. He goes, he walks in, he's the best person ever. And I interviewed someone who wrote a screenplay for The Tooth Fairy, which was an awful movie. And he said, and Jim Pittick said, The Rock was like, this guy wrote the movie. The Rock is exactly what he should be. The Rock is a trained performer who's been doing this shit. If you're going to say, The Rock's overrated, you got to say Kevin Hart's overrated, because Kevin Hart does the same character. So you can't, The Rock sits there. You ever see The Rundown with The Rock and see whatever?
Yeah. Sean William Scott.
It's a fucking great movie.
It is.
The Rock is what you expect. The Rock is not overrated. The Rock was a wrestler. Okay. Remember, he was a wrestler, but he sat there. He performed more than a comic. Okay, so we're not going to say overrated.
Here is why I say that. Because, man, I'm still going to watch almost everything he's in, excluding like Fast and Furious, because I love him.
I don't watch any of that. I don't watch any of his shit. I'm just saying I don't think he's overrated, so maybe I'm wrong.
He's just always is
overrated.
He's typecast. He's typecast. So popular. He's too popular to be typecast, in my opinion.
So that's not overrated.
I feel like it is.
No,
because if you're saying he's a good actor,
that's saying De Niro can't play an Italian. De Niro's overrated.
But De Niro has also played like everything. Like
no, really, De Niro played Raging Bull, a mad Italian. Played a mad father and married whatever the
Taxi Driver.
Played in
Taxi Driver. He wasn't.
He played a mad Irishman. The bottom line is Hollywood types.
Yeah, but I don't think he's overrated. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, Andrew. Or what you're getting at is that like not only is he typecast, but he's just thrown into all these movies just because he's a big name.
The Rock is 6'6" and like 300 pounds. He ain't playing freaking Mr. Housewife. That's the thing. So I don't think it's overrated. It is
okay. So
it does get
when I say overrated, I'm not saying that he's a bad actor. What I'm saying is people praise him for his acting chops, but he is just being him.
And that's the sign of a great actor.
Sure.
Unless you put an accent on,
fine,
or act mentally challenged, then all of a sudden you can win an Oscar.
You can't do that anymore. Ever since I Am Sam, you just can't go full
retard.
Yeah.
It's not. I might, But okay. So, what's your second question? So we disagreed on your first. The Rock's not overrated.
Well, we didn't disagree as much as like I gave an answer and then you were like, "No."
I'm a pain in the ass. Right.
It's we live in New Jersey. That's how it goes. I can't favorite pizza place.
I just said something and you said no.
No, I can't even tell you my favorite pizza place without meeting some resistance. That's just how
I would not argue that because I have a problem with people. I saw someone post something about a cheesesteak and everyone went crazy. And it's funny. I'm good friends with Tony Luke Jr. He's not the one. Tony Luke Jr. is not the one going to jail. That's his dad and his brother. Different Tony Luke. So people, please stop saying to me when they go, "Hey, your friend's going to jail." No, Tony Luke Jr. is not Tony Luke. Okay. But the thing is about cheesesteaks. You know what? Guess what? Cheesesteaks are all good around this area. People go, "Oh, yeah, you ain't a fucking cheesesteak." Yeah. So it's like pizza. You know what? If you like a piece of pizza, it's fine. As long as it's not Domino's or Pizza Hut. But I got Pizza Hut a few weeks ago.
It's not my favorite, I don't think, but Marino's Pizza up there in Runnymede has a really, really good chicken parm pizza.
I would never eat a chicken parm pizza, but I would try it because I like a pizza.
Typical South Jersey.
I like a piece of cheese pizza or pepperoni.
So for me, it was the same thing. I was like, I'll never try. Maybe I'll try it and see where I'm at. And then ever since I tried it, I was like, this is my thing.
Have you ever had a liverwurst sandwich? Have you ever eaten a liverwurst sandwich?
Yeah.
It's one of the best sandwiches ever. Liverwurst.
I've never had a liverwurst sandwich. I've just eaten a liverwurst though.
Isn't liverwurst good?
I live in Wisconsin. Everything is bratwurst, liverwurst, borschtwurst, all kinds of wurst. All kinds of wurst.
Wait, what is that one? Maybe it is liverwurst. Doesn't that normally have the fat around it?
No, there's no fat.
What am I thinking of then?
Liverwurst is like I don't know what you think. With the fat around, like it's a sausage with fat around it.
No, it's lunch meat. I've had liverwurst before.
Oh,
fine. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, never mind. Well, what's your second question?
I don't.
We already did the second question.
No. The first question was who's overrated, and you get a second question.
Yeah. Well, I don't think if you didn't answer that first question, I don't know if you're going to answer the second question. It was going to be, what is the worst comedy special you've seen?
Honestly, I don't watch comedy specials. I'll be God's honest. But I heard that Hannah special sucks dick. Whatever, the Hannah Gatsby. I heard it was
Nanette.
Whatever, I don't even know. Yeah, I didn't.
We watched that. We watched that on stream. And
that's the one we watched with Kane.
No.
Here's the problem.
I don't think it's a comedy special.
Well, here's
like I think they said it was, but I don't think it is.
Here's the
problem. No, it's a variety show. That's what they call it.
Here's the problem. I'm going to tell you. I was at an event earlier, and I was hanging out with a guy named Guy Rozier. Now his brother was Mike Rozier, who won the Heisman Trophy. Guy played quarterback, and then he went to Nebraska, and he played cornerback, and his brother played 9 years in the NFL. And Guy, because of the connections, worked for Eddie Murphy when he got out of college. And he was telling me stories, and it was the most fascinating conversation. And we were talking about comedy, and I was saying, man, he's like, yeah, I remember we used to hang out at the Comedy Store, and just when Tori and D.L. Hughley were all coming up, and we're hanging out, and he goes, and then we'd be in the office, and Arsenio would come through and Coming to America, and Arsenio would get an attitude, and Eddie would go, hey, motherfucker, all the money you have has a picture of me on a bill. And it was a great story. Yeah. We were talking about comedy. And back then, and I told him, I said, man, when those Eddie Murphy albums came out, oh my God, we listened to them, and when Dice's album and Stephen Wright. But back then, a comedy album, it goes back to about the specials, a comedy album, there wasn't a lot. Stephen Wright, I Have a Pony, Kinnison, Dice, The Day the Laughter Died, Steve Martin gets
The Day the Laughter Died is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's great because he's eating shit. When he goes, hey, get the fuck out of here, you cocksucking, it's great. And I opened for Dice right before he made it. It was my breaking out show. It propelled me. But back then, an album, you had Pryor, you had Carlin, now everyone goes, hey, I'm recording an album. And I'm like, you're a feature. Like, I know people in LA who are recording albums. I'm like, so wait, so you're going to sell it at your open mic? It's like, you don't, and the thing is, everyone with comedy specials, everyone can have a comedy special. Pay $100, sit there and put it on Amazon Prime, have some camera come in. I could have taped this tonight and go, Steve Cooper live from his cubicle as he talks to Andrew and Don. And we could have marketed it. And that's what sucks. Back in the day, comedy albums, comedy specials were earned. Chappelle, people can bitch about Chappelle. Chappelle fucking earned his specials.
He did.
Jimmy Brewer, whenever Jimmy's, I remember, as I said, we talked about Jimmy earlier, earned his specials. Dry Bar, Dry Bar, they put 80,000 specials on. A special used to be when you would do the Rodney Dangerfield comedy special. I remember
live at Dangerfield, like
it was Kinnison, it was Saget, it was Dice. They all did it. It meant something. Now, a special, like you're saying, most overrated comedy special. My most overrated comedy special is something I found on my phone when I was walking, and it was playing in my dry cleaner because the fucking press man did 5 minutes. Specials and albums don't mean anything anymore because anyone can have an album. I see people go album taping. I'm like, have you ever gone on the road? Have you ever?
Louis Anderson. I'm sorry. I was thinking of like
Louis Anderson was amazing.
Yeah, I was trying to think of like who. I was trying to think of it like who else? Because like Dom Herrera, Louis Anderson. Those are also people that made their big break because of that. But no, you're
Rita Rudner too, and Roseanne Barr blew up after Rodney's thing.
God, I haven't seen her lately, so I can't really comment. I guess it's saying used to be, but like she growing up when I got exposed to her comedy,
Roseanne.
Yeah, she was. Oh man, she was.
Let me tell you something about Roseanne.
Hard to match.
Roseanne, no matter what her, she's going off the deep end. I interviewed Tom for my podcast, and Tom did an hour, and I said, Tom, just tell me stories. Tell me the best stories. But Rich Scheidner, who's one of the best comics ever, who's a very good friend of mine, Roseanne hired him. And Alan Steven, who was in the Kinnison Outlaws, told me one time, he goes, I was broke. I showed up at Roseanne's door. I said, I'm broke. She gave me $20,000. She hired me to be a writer on her show next year. I made $300,000. That's what comedy was. But now anyone can have a special. Anyone can have a album. I mean, I might see people, I go, I guess I could have recorded an album. And my last show, I said, Cooper live from the Pizzeria Uno.
Yeah.
Do that. because it's like you know what, an album is, who's buying it? Everyone goes, my album's #1. Yeah, because all your friends just bought it. So you put all this money. It's just
the basically the competitive rates on like iTunes or something like that. It can be like 100 downloads will get you spot #1 because everything else is dead.
Yeah.
Dry Bar, they release so many things.
Everyone has a special in that. But
yeah,
hey,
people put it in their
as I say, more power to them. You know, it's
Greg.
Working with those people.
What is his name? Greg Morton has a Dry Bar special, and that was really well. He's a hilarious guy.
Yeah, there are so many great Dry Bar specials, but the other stuff are just bullshit. That's why
it's mainly it's a lot of like wives suck. that's the joke. The joke is that wives suck, and then
my wife's here. Joanne, you here?
Yes.
Who come say hi? My wife just got her hair
cut. Good about wife fucking.
Hey, Miss Joanne.
Hi.
You saw Andrew at the place.
Yeah, how you doing?
That's the double tree.
I make her go in the room when I do podcasts.
Yeah.
And it's funny is every once in a while I had Diane Neal from Law and Order SVU. She's a big fan, and I said, "Come out." So then she talked to her, and then Liz Vassy and Judy Gold, who's one of the funniest comics. Yeah. Real quick story about Judy Gold. Judy Gold, I'm interviewing her, and Joanne can hear it from the other room. Judy Gold goes, "So you know how Cooper, you know how it is, us all us Jews." And I go, "Judy, I'm not Jewish." And she goes, What? You're from Cherry Hill? You're not a Jew? And she went off on me. And it was the funniest thing. And that's someone who has a great comedy special, and she fucking destroys, and she brings it. And that's the thing. And she has Judy. I don't know if you're familiar with Judy Gold's work, but she does not she's a fucking 6'1" lesbian. And she goes on stage and she fucks people up. Like, she doesn't care. She wrote a whole show about, don't tell us to be politically correct. You can all go fuck yourselves. And Julie's great. Anyway, I've been rambling too long. I've had so much fun. I've been on here too much fun for you guys.
So we're going to wrap up here, Steve, if you don't mind. I guess go ahead and plug your stuff, and then we're going to afterwards.
So people, go to my website, coopertalk.net. You'll find 990 episodes of me and a lot of big celebrities. Actually, next week I'll be posting me and the drummer from Leonard Skinner. Artemis Pyle was the one who survived the crash. Right now, if you watch the show Reacher, my latest episode is the guy who played the African-American detective. His name is Malcolm Goodwin. Also, if you're a business person, I have a business podcast. Go to YouTube, look at the Coop Tank. The Coop Tank is me and some of the top business people in the New Jersey area. And I have a show February 24th at Pizzeria Uno in Maple Shade. And March 30th, me and Nigel Bennett from the band The Members and the punk rock band The Vibrators, we're playing at Studio 967 in Medford, New Jersey. We'll be doing 15 minutes of stand-up, him doing 35 minutes of music, and then a 20-minute conversation after. 2 shows, 7 and 9. You can check them out, but go to coopertalk.net. Email me at cooper@coopertalk.net.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you same time, same place next week. Thanks.